Opium became a powerful commercial weapon in the early 19th century, strong enough to disconnect China from the center of the world economy. China's dominance in tea, silk, and porcelain production made Western economies dependent, while the Qing government rejected almost all Western goods, causing silver to flow only toward China. This imbalance pushed Western companies and rising American merchants to search for riskier strategies. Their efforts soon turned the smuggling of Indian opium into China into a global economic plan. China tried to maintain control through a strict system that limited foreign traders to the Canton port, blocking access to inland regions and restricting external influence. However, rising demand for opium created a major weakness. Although banned, the drug had historical, medical, and recreational use in China, and a secret market expanded quickly. Some Western companies used opium to close their trade deficit with China. Opium chests were stored on fast clipper ships, waiting offshore, and merchants delivered the cargo to Chinese smugglers, often with the help of local officials. Silver payments gave Western economies relief, while addiction spread in Chinese society. Opium consumption grew in port cities, and even among officials, increasing concerns within the Qing administration about weakening state authority. American merchants also entered this profitable trade following the pattern set by British companies. Archival records show that American ships carried Indian opium to Chinese coasts, and that several US-based firms earned significant profits. Historians document the active role of a few American companies and individual traders using trade logs and contemporary accounts. By the 1830s, the Chinese government recognized that opium weakened both society and the state. Authorities raided coastal warehouses, seized contraband, and issued harsh warnings to foreign companies. Western powers treated these actions as violations of commercial freedom, and tensions escalated quickly. In 1839, these conflicts triggered the First Opium War, a turning point that reshaped global trade power politics and international law. The opium trade revealed the ruthless methods used to protect Western economic interests and exposed China's vulnerability to foreign pressure. Competition between states occurs not only on battlefields, but also through trade routes, port cities, and economic strategies. Short-term profit can bring severe long-term consequences. The devastation opium caused in China stands as a warning about the human cost of economic ambition. As the morning fog of the Atlantic parted around the narrow hull of a clipper ship, a new class was rising. Along the American coast between the 18th and 19th centuries, families determined to turn the seas into commercial highways. For a United States newly burdened by the financial cost of the War of Independence, foreign trade became the backbone of national survival. In the New England ports, the metallic ring of shipmasts at dawn signaled the birth of a new economic empire. In the ports of Boston, Salem, and New York, trade that began with coffee, cotton, tobacco, and furs expanded into a global network. Merchants who discovered faster and more profitable routes multiplied their wealth at extraordinary speed. Clipper ships became the icons of this transformation, with sharp lines and unmatched speed across the ocean. Every hour gained meant massive profit, and wealthy families of Boston and New York financed master shipbuilders to create the fastest commercial vessels in the world. Yet this network did not rely solely on legal goods. Behind the bright surface of global trade, a darker reality was forming. Along the Chinese coast, the opium trade, led by the British, had grown into a vast economy, and American merchants entered this lucrative system quickly. Although the US government did not officially support the trade, American ships operated with greater flexibility and speed, and gained an advantage in East Asian markets. One of the most prominent firms of this era was Russell and Company. Based in Boston, it became the largest American commercial network in China, managing opium, tea, silk, and porcelain across global routes. From Chinese markets filled with blue and white porcelain to hidden opium depots in the Indian subcontinent, the company built a trade sphere approaching the scale of an empire. Its representatives acted not only as merchants, but as diplomats, intelligence brokers, and negotiators, sometimes partnering with British traders and sometimes competing with them. Several American families who later shaped U.S. political history were tied to these trade routes. The origins of many respected fortunes rested on the flow of goods between Asia and the Americas. For these families, the sea represented status power and international influence, and the wealth earned across ocean routes later fueled American banking industry and national policy. This rise also reflected the transformation of American national identity, With the Atlantic to the east and the Pacific to the west, the young nation was writing its destiny on the sea. The star-spangled flag on the masts of trade ships became the symbol of a power entering the global arena. From New England ports to the coasts of China and the harbors of India, it marked the expanding influence of American merchants. Some of the most influential families in American history built great fortunes not only through maritime trade and industry, but also through the controversial 19th century opium trade in China. Families such as Roosevelt, Astor, and Forbes multiplied their wealth through ships carrying opium to China, and archives, logbooks, and letters now reveal the origins of these fortunes. As American firms like Russell and Company rose, these families became significant figures in the Chinese opium market. Warren Delano III, the grandfather of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was a major partner at Russell Company, and much of the Delano family wealth came from transporting opium from India to China. The company was one of the largest American opium carriers and earned a major share of its revenue from this illegal trade. Delano's profits later funded major investments in New York, including railroads even after he lost his assets in the financial crisis of 1857. This fortune contributed to American industry, banking, and politics, and became an early foundation of U.S. global influence. John Jacob Astor was another leading figure in the China opium trade. Though known for real estate and the creation of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, a large portion of his wealth came from opium. His companies imported opium from India, shipped it to China, and earned immense profits. By 1840, Astor's fortune reached about $20 million, worth roughly half $1 billion today, much of it tied to opium. Historical letters and financial records document his involvement clearly. His heir, John Jacob Astor IV, inherited this wealth and remained one of America's richest men until his death on the Titanic in 1912. The Forbes family also rose through the China opium trade. Robert Bennett Forbes and John Murray Forbes were among the major American transporters of opium and maintained strong ties with Russell and Company. Robert Forbes carried opium while working as a ship captain, and this wealth helped shape Boston's elite class and later the creation of Forbes magazine. Buildings and statues in Boston honor John Murray Forbes, but the family's early fortune rested heavily on opium. For decades, the American elite treated opium trading as a taboo, despite its enormous impact. Many of their fortunes and international influence were built on revenue from smuggling opium into China. Every shipment enriched American aristocratic families while contributing to China's destruction. Modern research and archival material now reveal the full extent of this legacy. Some of the most powerful families in American history built their wealth through the opium trade with China, and their influence extended beyond economics. Yale, Harvard, and other prestigious universities were shaped under the impact of this trade. These families affected industry, banking, and the writing of American history. Historical records show that trade with China was often hidden or suppressed. American elites, especially those educated at Yale and Harvard, developed strategies to obscure their families' dark commercial pasts. These strategies played a role in constructing a national narrative. Although universities shaped American intellectual values, the opium trade left deep historical traces. Education at these institutions provided practical knowledge for industrialists and merchants. Heirs of Russell and Company, Astor, and Forbes, families often entered trade immediately after graduation. The connection between opium shipments to China and these schools was largely censored. In the second half of the 19th century, Yale and Harvard became key institutions providing education and financial strategy to these families. Historical documents reveal secrecy regarding trade. Graduates contributed to company growth, but curricula contained no information on the profitability or impact of opium trade. Instead, the institutions promoted narratives portraying America as a defender of freedom, democracy, and the poor while ignoring the wealth generated through opium sales. Over time, this historical censorship spread to a broader audience. 20th century official histories excluded unethical practices like opium trade. Education, media, and discussion platforms reinforced this narrative. U.S. governments worked to remove references to opium wars and Chinese addiction from national discourse. These policies avoided diplomatic conflicts and suppressed domestic, moral, and social unrest. Family archives and trade records preserved secretly by faculty and students have now been revealed by historians. Documents from Russell and Company and other firms provide insight into the global trade networks and unethical methods used to generate wealth. They also show the indirect role of American universities in this trade. Today, Harvard and Yale teach many aspects of American history, but the history of opium trade with China remains largely absent from curricula. The narrative of America as a symbol of freedom and democracy was largely shaped by economic interests and secret trade agreements. Universities successfully removed this dark past from public memory, but historical documents now expose it. The opium trade transformed both national economic interests and societal values and was long known only within elite circles. Modern America is a society historically shaped not only by industrial and technological innovation, but also by illegal trade and hidden histories. The economic power generated by the opium trade with China still influences American economic structures and resonates in political legacies. Ethical reckoning with this past contains lessons crucial for the future. In the 19th century, the opium trade allowed elite families to amass enormous wealth and shaped societal values and ethics. Russell and Company, Astor Forbes, and Delano families built fortunes that expanded both their personal wealth and the national economic infrastructure from New York, Boston, Washington to California. These fortunes were built on the suffering of the Chinese population. The U.S. government suppressed and censored knowledge of this trade. During the Opium Wars, Americans were told these interventions were for civilization, when in reality they protected economic interests. The legacy of Chinese addiction and American colonialism remains largely unexamined. The historical impact extended into politics. Presidents like FDR enforced strict anti-drug laws while ignoring the fact that their own family wealth derived from opium trade. This reflects the irony of hidden family history shaping public policy. Concealed truths also influenced American values. Equality, freedom, and democracy are celebrated while the opium trade is omitted from historical narratives. The trade caused devastation in China, including addiction and societal collapse in the 19th century. Modern America continues to grow on technologies and industries built atop this legacy. Elites have historically suppressed awareness of this past. Research and archival evidence now reveal the extent of these hidden influences. Ethical reckoning and lessons from history are crucial. Economic development and social welfare must be balanced with learning from past mistakes. The harms of the opium trade and subsequent global drug conflicts provide guidance for future decision-making. Acknowledging this dark legacy is necessary to prevent historical repetition. The consequences extend beyond America to a global warning. Ignoring human rights for economic or political gain undermines societal morality. The greatest lesson for America is to confront its dark history and pursue historical accountability. Historical reckoning and the uncovering of truths are essential first steps toward a more just modern society. If you found this historical perspective valuable, consider subscribing for more content